What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the Galaxy A35 here in 2024 here. And yeah, this is a phone that I didn't get a lot of requests to take a look at, so I went ahead and picked one up. It was very cheap. I got this one off of eBay. You can find these actually brand new for around the 324 to 250 unlocked here. So this is a pretty cheap phone if you want to buy a phone that's brand new, if you don't want to go the old flagship route. So yeah, so let's go ahead and just dive in here, because I thought this phone was pretty interesting actually, just using this phone. So now let's talk about the design here. So this is a very dark blue color and looks really nice. This is a glass back, which is pretty nice for a mid-range phone. Now the spec sheet said that this is a plastic frame, so it could have fooled me. I legit thought this was metal, but it is supposedly a plastic frame. So this phone, it still has a very premium feel to it. So it's very, very nice as far as the hardware goes. You pretty much have the same design as, an S24 Plus. It kind of pretty much looks like an S24 Plus from the back here. And yeah, you have IP67 dust and water resistant, which is still pretty decent for a mid-range phone. So that's solid. And it is, it's somewhat comfortable to hold. It is kind of like a little sharp right here, but yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about this display here. So you do have a little bit of bezel. Of course, it is a a mid-range phone, so you would expect that, but the overall panel is pretty nice here. So it's not a bad panel at all. So we do have on here a 6.6-inch display. It's a Super AMOLED display, and then we also do have a 120 hertz refresh rate with only 1000 nits brightness. Now it is 1080p 390 for the PPI. We do have Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, and we have our punch hole. I would say the display looks fine. I don't really have an issue with it. As far as the colors, they look super vibrant. No issues in that department. And yeah, so I think the display is pretty good here. The max brightness, I think, is fine for a mid-range phone. It's not gonna be super bright outdoors, at 1000 nits, but it looks fine. So I actually really like the display. I don't have any issues with it. And yeah, I think the only thing that is kind of missing here that I noticed it doesn't have is HDR10 plus or any type of HDR. But besides that, I mean, it's a really nice panel. Everything looks really nice and vibrant and colorful. So yeah, I actually really like the panel here. I know gaming is going to be a big concern here. So this phone, it does have Android 14, 4 major OS updates, and this phone has the Exynos 1380 on here. What's cool about this A series phone is that we do get micro SD card support, so you do have expandable storage if you need expandable storage. The base is 128 gigs and 6 gigs of RAM. So far, performance has been pretty solid on this device. If you are a competitive gamer on a budget, you could probably go with a another phone, an old flagship, because you're not going to get the best settings. You can see we do have 60 frames, which is pretty good. It's very consistent. But for HDR, we have Ultra, so you can get better settings on an old flagship. If you want the 90 frames, you can go with the S22 Plus or something like that. Even an S21 Plus is still going to give you 90 frames. But yeah, this is solid, guys. I don't have an issue with performance on here for a casual gamer. I was actually pretty surprised with this Exynos processor. You hear a lot of bad things about the Exynos processors from overseas. They don't really sell them here in the USA as far as like on the flagship models. But yeah, so I think performance is solid on here. I haven't really experienced any issues with this phone. Just doing regular tasks, casually gaming and stuff like that. Everything seems to be pretty spot on when it comes to performance here. Now, as far as the Geekbench scores go, if you want a point of reference here, show you guys the scores. And here are the Geekbench scores for the single and multi-core score, which again is not bad for this. Let's see what it kind of compares to Poco F3, so it's kind of somewhat on par with that. So yeah, so overall, Samsung's Exynos processor here isn't really that bad. I haven't really experienced any type of lag or anything with this phone. It's actually pretty smooth. Like sometimes you'll get like little animation stutters like that, like going into the Google Now page. But for the most part, just going through the OS, it's pretty smooth. I don't really have an issue with this phone. I can only see it getting smoother with updates here. Now, the AI features aren't here. You only have like circle to search here, which is fine. It's one of my favorite features, so it's nice that that's there. But yeah, so, of course you're not gonna get the AI features on a mid-range phone, but yeah, as far as the OS and everything just being smooth, opening apps, just doing basic stuff. I mean, mid-range phones have come a long way in just being, pretty efficient in doing, just normal stuff now. Check out these speakers at max volume. Not bad at all. Pretty good bass. Overall top speakers doing pretty good. Very good speakers on here. So no issues with that. You do have an optical fingerprint scanner, which works fine. So the difference between the optical and the ultrasonic ones is if you do this on an ultrasonic, it'll actually register. This one you have to kind of hold just for a little bit longer. It's not like a big, I don't think most people will really notice it, honestly. Now, the surprising thing about these Galaxy A series phones is that the cameras have gotten very, very good. Even on the A55, I was impressed, and this one is no exception. I was still pretty impressed with the cameras on here. It's got a 50 megapixel standard, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, 5 megapixel macro, and then it shoots in only 4K 30, and then you have a 13 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 30. And yeah, you would like to see the 4K 60 and stuff like that, but most of the times, shooting in 1080 60 is fine. And the images look pretty good on the A35. There's a good amount of detail. It doesn't really look that bad at all in low light photography. Yeah, you are kind of lacking the telephoto lens here, so your zoom shots aren't going to be the greatest, of course. But just stills and stuff like that look pretty good, color-wise, dynamic range-wise. The video actually surprised me. It was pretty solid. The ultra wide really wasn't that bad on here as well too. Selfie was decent. So yeah, so I think the A35's cameras are actually surprisingly pretty good, actually. Alright, so the interesting thing with the A35 here is the battery life. So the battery life, from what I've been seeing online and just reading, is pretty good. So 5,000 milliamp hour battery. The charging is going to be a little bit on the slower side at 25 watts. And again, let's talk about the stuff that you're going to be missing if you decide to, get this phone over an old flagship. You do not have Samsung desktop support. It's not here, so just do note that. Wireless charging is not going to be on board as well. And overall, just the other stuff, little small stuff that we're talking about. But this is a solid phone, I think, for anybody who, you don't really like old flagships. You don't like used refurbished phones. You want to buy something brand new. This is solid. I like the SD card support is still here. I like the cameras. I like the build quality. I just can't believe that this is plastic, because it really fooled me. The screen on here is fine. So overall, it's a very solid phone. So I don't have really anything too negative to say about this phone. 4 years of updates is solid. And gaming performance, it's okay for the casual gamer. You can definitely game on here a little bit. So I'm not mad at this Exynos processor. Overall, I thought it was going to be a lot worse, but it's pretty smooth for the most part.